All right, welcome in to a post Father's Day edition of Carps Corner, and pretty excited about this because I'm a father, so Father's Day is kind of a big deal, and it's something I get to celebrate. You've got Mother's Day, I've got my anniversary, I've got my wife's birthday, and so for like dads, you kind of get Father's Day and your birthday. That's kind of it. Valentine's Day, it belongs to your wife, belongs to the ladies, and it should. They don't get enough respect. They don't get enough credit. But I will say this: Father's Day is nice, and Father's Day is big, and that is going to be the motif. This isn't going to be a long show, but it'll be the motif. And I will say this to all dads out there: and there's difference between being a father and a dad. Fathering a child is easy. Being a dad is hard. There are days I want to quit being a dad. Fathered 4 kids. And I look at what my dad did for us and the sacrifices that he made and everything that he has put forward. And I'm like, time to invest, time to lean in, time to be a part of it. And so for all men out there, whether you're a father, an uncle, a grandfather, it doesn't matter. If you're a male role model, don't abdicate the opportunity, the responsibility of raising our next generation. Little boys, little girls, they need men, and they need male role models in their life to model behavior, to show them exactly how they should act, how a man should treat a woman, how they should interact with everybody, how they should treat other people in general. Because here's the thing: people talk about, and I get a little biblical on this, my Father's Day, waking up, going to church, go to brunch, hang out at the pool. I'm not a big golfer, get the kids around, hang out. I did see Top Gun, which for the 4th time. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But I think it is important for fathers to understand and know their responsibility and know their role. And it's a biblical place, and there's something to it. And it's about male leadership. And here's the thing: people talk about leadership as if it's like commanding, telling people what to do. You know what leadership is for men? Leadership is for everybody. Leadership is 2 things, the 2 big S's. It's sacrifice and servitude. That's what it is. And so if you're a man and it's Father's Day and you're a grandfather, an uncle, whatever, if you have people that are looking up to you, young folks who are looking up to you, it's an opportunity to teach them about those things, to teach them about the sacrifices that you are willing to make, and to be a servant leader to them. Servitude. How can I help serve you? It's not telling other people what to do. It's not yelling and this and that. And believe me, I'm as guilty as it is anybody. It's easy. It's easy to get caught up in that. But I look at, how can I help? What can I do to try to better facilitate opportunities for my children, to give them opportunities that I didn't have, but also to hold them to task and to make sure that they're getting the very best and the most out of their ability. And so there's the balance. It's a little truth and a little grace. You blend it together and hopefully it makes something that's fantastic. But it's really hard. It's hard. And so for all the fathers out there, I salute you. Right there. We're willing to get in it every day. We aren't going to give up. We're going to walk away. We're going to stay the course because we need dads. We need dads in the lives of young people around our country because it's not easy, and they need examples. They need servant leaders, and they need people who are willing to sacrifice for them and invest in them. It's not easy because sacrifice, as I've talked before, means giving up something you love for something you love even more. And so by definition, that means there's going to be something that you really like and you really love that's going to be moved away. So two real important things I want to get to in this. I saw Top Gun for the fourth time. All right. And I may have even slid in and watched like the last 25 minutes in one of the other theaters. They're still showing it like 15, 30 minutes apart. And so I may have dipped out. I'm like, I slid on in there and I want to watch the end of it and I want to see it. And my wife asked me, she goes, you've already seen it 3 times. She's not a big movie person. We went and saw it and she loved it. Not a big movie person. I love movies. They're an escape from reality. It's an opportunity to see the best in humanity. Hopefully, in a good movie, you're getting to see the best in humanity. Real people, like in Top Gun, real characters, the good, the bad, all in between. They're real humans. They're real humans. They're not idealistic. They're real. The real reason that I love it, and like going back to this weekend, my wife and I had dinner with AJ and Laura Hawk on Friday night. AJ has been one of my best friends for the last 20 years. I love his wife, love his kids. He's godparents to my third kids. Like I love them. They're the guardians of our children. Like they're the best. And then Saturday night hung out with the Schlegels. Great. Like those are my guys. Those are my dudes from college. Got a couple other friends in there from college who I'm still really close with. Got some buddies from high school. But the reason I really like Top Gun, and this is what's crazy, because I've watched this with my dad. I touched on this a little in the last episode, is the fact that as I'm watching it, and I couldn't put my finger out right away, but the relationship and the relationship arc of Maverick and Iceman, Val Kilmer, Tom Cruise, Admiral Kazansky, Pete Mitchell. Like that's big time. And understand where they went. And as I'm sitting there today, it all of a sudden hit me as I watched it for the 4th time. And I can't wait till this thing streams. So I don't have to go pay $12 to go watch it, or 15 or whatever the heck I'm paying to go see this. But this is where it hit me. All of a sudden, I realized that Tom Cruise is going to be 60 on July 3rd. Like Val Kilmer, those guys are in their upper 50s, lower 60s. They shot that thing 35 years ago. They're in their early 20s, mid 20s. I'm like, one day I'm gonna be staring at one of my friends, one of my good buddies from high school or college, someone that I went to battle. And I use that in quotes because football isn't real battle, but someone who I worked out with, I trained with, I lived with. And then we'll probably be in our 60s, hopefully 70s or 80s, but there'll be guys and we'll be in our 50s, 60s, 70s. And you have to have those conversations, those last conversations that you'll have with friends as they are suffering from an affliction, whatever it might be. And I sit there and watch it and like, I get emotional. I enjoy the emotion. Man, I love it. I love it. I have a couple of drinks, dude. And I dive right into it because I love feeling that way, because it's how you would feel when you're playing, when you're close and you're connected to people. And I sit there and I love Top Gun because as I watch Mav and Ice, a couple of guys in the early 60s, late 50s, and you see, Val Kilmer, and he's got a trait box and he can't talk. And I'm like, there may be a day where I'm having a conversation with a friend of mine, and that's us. And that's going to happen. And it's going to be real. And it's unbelievable. And I don't know what side of that conversation I'll be on. Maybe I'll be on the side where it's my sands in the top of the hourglass are trickling down, or maybe it's my friend who their sands are trickling down. They only have a few left up top. But I watched that. I'm like, it's life. That's real. That is as real as it gets. And the relationships that are created and bonded through the military. Sports is second only to that. And so the guys who I know, Schlegs, AJ, my guys Romo and Witten, dudes in the NFL, guys from high school. I mean, there's a couple other guys I played with, I'd throw in that category. And it's like these dudes, like, I don't want to, I'm going to have my 20-year reunion for the 2002 national championship. We've lost 4 guys off that team. I don't want to have any more of those conversations, but they'll happen. They're going to be hard. I said there was talking to Mike Doss about it, who was one of our captains. He's a senior safety. And it's amazing how close you get to people as the years age. And it's unreal. And so those conversations you have, those are real conversations. And so watching that happen, it was intense. It was intense. And that's why I think I love the movie so much. I can't wait for it to come out on streaming, so I don't have to pay to watch it anymore. But as this is a post-Father's Day edition of Carps Corner, I want to throw this out there about my dad. And I'll throw some stuff up. And someone threw a tweet up, at me, and I'll toss it up here. It said, Bobby, I've told you before, your father was one of my favorite players as a kid. You're one of my favorite Buckeyes, but your post-playing career is impressive, and I'll credit your father for that too. Happy Father's Day. And then I throw up this picture of my dad and me at training camp. And then I throw this picture of me and my son at training camp. And I look at my dad. My dad is a flawed human being. I'm a heavily flawed human being. Many of us, all of us are heavily flawed human beings. Even the most successful people in whatever their given field is. And I think of all of the positive influence that my father has provided me through the years. As a father, as a coach, and really now as a friend. And I never would have thought I would have viewed my father as a friend growing up, because that's not what he wanted to be at all. He was my coach. He was tough. He was firm, but he was always there to hear. And now, like, the conversations we're able to have about parenthood, about how he parented me, and the unique situation that as I look at and try to parent my kids and figure out like how this is going to work. Played in the NFL for 10 years and he coached me. And so I got to play in the NFL for 7, and it's amazing. I wore 13 because he wore 26. And I always told myself, if I could be half as good as my dad, then I'd be all right. And so he was the first coach I ever had. He didn't let me play football until I was 13 years old. He coached me in 7th and 8th grade. And I was the worst 7th grade football player you could have probably found. Decent athlete, awful football player. But he stuck with it. He had to bench me. It was brutal. And I ended up getting better. I was a tough dude to coach. I was heavily opinionated. I was hard. I'd push back, all these different things. But he was always there. And he never really leaned in hard with his opinions. He never pushed me to do something. He always just gave me opportunities. And then whenever I had questions, he'd be more than willing to answer. And that's probably the best thing that I could say about my dad on this Father's Day, like coming out of the weekend, and how eternally grateful I am for me being able to get into the quote family business, him not wanting to push me in, my 3 younger brothers all playing college football as well. And he never like leaned on us and grinded on us and told us this is what you have to do. In fact, he discouraged us from playing. Like I said, I couldn't play till I was in 7th. He let my 3 younger brothers play in 6th, but he didn't want us to do it. He wanted us to do something that we loved, something we were passionate about. He didn't want us to get in there and feel like we had to be him. And I'm eternally grateful for that. And so I've tried to like balance that with my kids, and I'm not near as good as he is at it. Like I said, my dad's not perfect. He's got a lot of issues, a lot of things going on, but he did a great job for me in helping me choose a school, pick Ohio State. He was there when a week into training camp at Ohio State in 2 days. And I'm like, man, this is hard. I'm done. And him telling me like, hey, give me a lot of truth. You want to quit? You got 2 weeks on the couch, and then you're going to get a job. You want to leave. Don't think you're coming back here and hanging out. Because when I went to Miami, I didn't have a way out. So I'm not giving you one. But then after that, pivoting and be like, hey, you can do this, you can do that. How's it going? What's happening? These different things, and having a real conversation. Same thing in the NFL, always being an ear, but never pushing, never pushing. I try to be that as a dad, and I know I fall way short. I don't know how my dad did it so well. I don't know how he did. And I couldn't thank him enough for the impact he's had on my career and had on me and my friends, and how he leaned in on us and how he helped us, but never like in a pushy manner, just giving us opportunities. And now we sit there and talk, and the stories he has and the stuff that he's told me over the last 15 years that I've been like an adult, like 20 years, telling stuff about Kenny Stabler and Earl Campbell with the Oilers, and, you know, the snake, ordering 12, 20 cases of champagne out to training camp when they're in San Angelo, Texas. Like all these great things, all these great stories. He's been there for it. And he loves listening to my radio show. Coached high school football for 30 years. Head coach at his alma mater for 23. Like the dude's done so much. And between him and my grandfather, and watching our family's trajectory change because of what they were able to do, and the reason I can sit here, have this sweet office with all this cool stuff behind me, like you see all this, like because of him, because he invested in me, gave me opportunity, never pushed, didn't push me away. He wasn't like saying, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, come here and train this and that. Like, and I wish he probably would have done a little bit more in there. I try to like do that with my kids. Hey, we're going to do this. We're, like, this is how you can be good. But he just always was about giving opportunity. And as a player and as a son, that's really all you can ask. And I don't know how to thank him for leading me on this path to success, because a lot of it's been all him. And so on Father's Day, I look at him as a dad. He was a good dad, but the best part is he's been even a better grandfather. And so as you get older, you start to realize these things, and you realize all of the unbelievable blessings you've had. And I believe probably one of the greatest blessings in my life are my parents. And not to diminish my mom, because she's been phenomenal. We fight, as good as anybody. But my dad has been through a lot of the things that I've been through in life. And he's probably handled a lot of them better than me, to tell you the truth. But I don't know how to truly pay gratitude and thank him for everything he's put out there. And so, like, coming out of this Father's Day weekend, looking at this, like, he loves movies. We went and saw Top Gun a couple of weeks ago. He loved it. And I know why he loved it, like the nostalgia element of it. And it's, dude, a guy who played with, Earl Campbell and Curly Culp, unbelievable players, Lawrence Taylor, Robert Brazil, Phil Sim, like, dude, Bart Oates, all these great players, Harry Carson. Like, my dad played with some unbelievable dudes, and he was a phenomenal player. I wish I could have been as good as him in the NFL. And that's why, like I said, I wore 13, because it was half of 26. And I always told myself, if I can be half as good as my dad, if I can be half as good as he is, then I'll have done something, and I would have done it right. And so that's why I rocked the 1-3. And I don't know if he ever knew that. I don't know if he put it together, but I read a story about Michael Jordan wearing 23 because his brother wore 45. And that was the reason, to be half as good as him. And that's the reason I rocked the 23, as you can see my dad wore the 13 is my dad wore the 26. And that was it. So I'm eternally grateful for it. And I know this is an emotional thing, but like Father's Day, especially in sports, people ask me, like, You and your dad, what do you talk about outside of sports? What are your hobbies? Well, he doesn't golf. I'm not a huge golfer. I'll golf a little. My grandfather, big time golfer. My dad was always on the bag, running around caddying for him. So he never wanted to do it. So he never got me into it. No, I can golf a little, and I don't mind it. But like, what do you talk about outside of sports? The Carpenters, we talk sports. We talk work ethic. We talk about working on the farm and doing stuff like that. That is our life. It's sad, and people roll your eyes. You guys have no hobbies, this and that. Well, dude, you know what we get out there? The best times I ever had with my dad, when we saw up a tree with a couple of chainsaws. We lay some fence posts. We steer a couple cattle. We're watching game film. We're watching an NFL game, and he's talking about, well, they should have run this screen, or they should have done this, or run the draw here, or done this or that. Like, those are our conversations. And then that leads to something so much deeper. So I don't regret it at all. I'm blessed. I'm lucky to have him in my life. Couldn't ask for a better dad. And hopefully I'll be able to be half that dad to my kids. I know I'm not even close. And he's a better grandfather than he ever was a dad. So I got a lot of work to do. But enjoy it. I know it's a Monday. We're coming out of Father's Day weekend. We're barreling towards the end of June. We are in the full throng of summer. So try to relax. Enjoy this. Football season will be here before you know it. And then we can really get going. So subscribe, comment, share it, whatever you've got to do. Thank you for listening to Carps Corner. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next time.